Ladies and gentlemen, I want to talk about something powerful yet often overlooked, the truth revealed not by what we say or do, but by what we don't. There's a weight to absence, isn't there? A silence that speaks louder than words, actions, or even intentions. And sometimes it's in the spaces we leave unfilled that the deepest truths emerge. We live in a world that celebrates presence, the hustle, the grind, the loudness of being seen and heard. But have you ever paused to think about what your absence says? When we step back or fail to show up, it tells a story, often one we might not even realize we're telling. Absence can reveal our priorities. It's easy to say what matters to us, but where we fail to show up, whether it's in our relationships, in our commitments, or even for ourselves, reveals where we've allowed other things to take center stage. It's not about blame, it's about reflection. Our lives are a tapestry woven with choices, and every decision about where we spend our time, energy, and presence reveals what matters most to us. Absence, though often overlooked, is just as telling as presence. When we fail to show up intentionally or not, we are communicating something profound about what we value and prioritize. It's not always easy to face, but our absence is a mirror reflecting truths that words alone cannot express. Think about the relationships and commitments in your life. It's easy to say that certain people or things are important to you, but where do your actions truly align? Where do you consistently show up and where do you fade into the background? These patterns are significant. Absence isn't just about physical distance, it's about emotional or mental disengagement too. You might be in the same room as someone, but entirely absent from the connection they seek from you. When we pull back, whether intentionally or unconsciously, we are making a statement about what we have chosen to invest in, even if we don't realize it. Consider a parent who misses important milestones in their child's life because work always seems to take precedence. Their absence in those moments speaks volumes about where their priorities lie, whether they intend it or not. Or to the child, it can feel like they're not as important as the job. To the parent, it might simply reflect the pressures of providing for their family. But regardless of the intent, the absence leaves an impact that cannot be undone by explanations alone. In these instances, absence becomes a form of unspoken truth. It shows us where we are directing our limited resources of time and energy. This isn't to say that absence always equals failure or neglect. Life is complex, and sometimes we have no choice but to be absent from certain moments. Emergencies happen, work deadlines arise, and our capacity to be everywhere at once is finite. However, even in these cases, absence still speaks. It highlights the trade-offs we've made and what we've deemed essential in a given moment. For example, a friend who repeatedly cancels plans may not intend to send the message that the relationship isn't a priority, but over time, that absence communicates just that. Absence also has a ripple effect on relationships. When someone we care about is absent during a critical moment, it can create a wound that lingers. The missed wedding, the unanswered phone call during a crisis, or the lack of follow through on a promise, all of these moments of absence accumulate, shaping how others perceive our reliability and care. While the person who was absent may have valid reasons, the impact remains. Absence reveals not only our priorities, but also how others feel about where they stand in our lives. This idea doesn't apply solely to relationships with others. It also speaks to the relationship we have with ourselves. Where are we absent in our own lives when we neglect self-care, ignore our dreams, or fail to create space for rest? We are prioritizing something else over our well-being. Perhaps it's external demands or fear of slowing down, but our absence from the care of ourselves reveals another layer of truth. It shows us where we might be sacrificing our needs for things that, in the grand scheme, might not be as important as we think. Absence can also be revealing in professional settings. A leader who is absent from the daily operations of their team might believe they are empowering others, but their lack of presence might instead be perceived as disengagement or lack of interest. Similarly, an employee who is chronically absent, either physically or emotionally, signals discontent, burnout, or misalignment with the organization's goals. In these scenarios, absence becomes an unintentional message that forces others to fill in the gaps with their own interpretations. At times, absence may feel safer than showing up. It's easier to step back from a difficult conversation, a challenging situation, or an uncomfortable moment than it is to engage fully. But even then, absence speaks. It can convey avoidance, fear, or lack of commitment. The question becomes whether the truth that absence reveals is one we are willing to own. Because whether we're conscious of it or not, our choices about where we are and where we are not are always telling a story. Absence reveals priorities in ways that can't always be undone by explanations or apologies. The good news is that awareness of this dynamic gives us an opportunity to realign. We can examine where our absence is speaking louder than we'd like and ask ourselves whether those are the truths we want to be known for. What's beautiful about absence is that it's not final, it's a clue, a chance to understand where our heart is truly leading us. It invites us to reflect on what matters and adjust our actions to match the values we want to uphold. Absence is a paradox, holding the power to wound deeply, yet offering space for growth and healing. When someone we care about is absent, especially during moments of need, it can leave a mark that words often fail to erase. At the same time, stepping away, whether for reflection, protection, or self preservation, can be an act of profound care, both for ourselves and others. It's a complex interplay where absence can both harm and heal depending on its context, intention, and timing. The pain of absence often arises when it's unexpected or unintentional. In relationships, being left alone in moments of joy, sorrow, or struggle can feel like a betrayal. Imagine a friend who doesn't show up during a major life event, or a partner who emotionally withdraws when things get tough. The absence creates a void, one that gets filled with questions. Am I not important to them? Did I do something wrong? Do they care about me at all? These unanswered questions amplify the hurt, making the absence not just a physical reality, but an emotional burden. This kind of absence often feels personal, even if it's not meant to be. Someone might fail to show up because of their own struggles or limitations, but to the person left behind, the absence communicates something deeper, a lack of value or commitment. These moments can erode trust, creating cracks in relationships that are difficult to repair. The hurt lingers not because of the absence itself, but because of what that absence symbolizes, the feeling of being overlooked, forgotten, or unworthy of attention. Yet absence doesn't always come from a place of neglect. Sometimes stepping away is necessary. In moments of tension, heated emotions, or overwhelming circumstances, choosing absence can be an act of wisdom. By creating distance, we can avoid saying or doing things that might cause irreversible harm. In these cases, absence serves as a buffer, allowing emotions to cool and perspectives to shift. It provides the space needed to process, to reflect, and to approach situations with greater clarity. Absence can also heal by giving us time to reconnect with ourselves. In a world that demands constant interaction and availability, stepping back can feel like a radical act. But it's often in these moments of solitude that we find clarity. Absence from the noise of daily life allows us to hear our own thoughts, understand our own needs, and replenish the energy we pour into others. It's not about abandoning responsibilities or relationships. It's about recognizing that we can't pour from an empty cup. For some, absence becomes a form of boundary setting. By stepping away from relationships or environments that drain them, they prioritize their well-being. This kind of absence, though difficult, is a form of healing. It's a statement that says, I value myself enough to walk away from what no longer serves me. It can feel selfish, especially in a culture that celebrates constant availability. But this intentional absence often leads to deeper self-awareness and growth. There's also a redemptive power in absence when it's used to strengthen relationships. Time apart can make us appreciate what we have. It creates a longing that deepens connection when we reunite. I think of loved ones separated by distance who cherish the moments they do share even more because of the time spent apart. Absence, in these cases, enhances the bond by reminding us not to take each other for granted. But even as absence heals, it doesn't erase the pain it might have caused. When we've been absent, whether physically, emotionally, or mentally from someone who needed us, our return doesn't automatically undo the hurt. Healing requires acknowledgement. It means recognizing the impact of our absence, taking responsibility for it, and making amends where possible. This process is uncomfortable, but it's also necessary if we want to transform the hurt caused by absence into an opportunity for deeper connection. The duality of absence, its ability to hurt and heal, teaches us to approach it with intention. Unintentional absence, where we fail to show up without realizing the consequences, often leaves wounds. Intentional absence, on the other hand, can create the space needed for growth, clarity, and healing. The key lies in being mindful of our choices. Are we absent because we're avoiding something or because we're choosing to protect our energy? Are we stepping away to create space for healing, or have we unintentionally left someone feeling abandoned? Absence doesn't exist in isolation. It's always in relation to something or someone. It's a reflection of what we're prioritizing in a given moment, and it carries a message. Whether it hurts or heals depends on how we navigate it. The power of absence lies in its ability to teach us, to challenge us, and to transform us if we're willing to face what it reveals. Absence functions as a powerful mirror, reflecting truths about ourselves, our relationships, and our priorities. When we choose or are forced to be absent, we create a space where the dynamics of our lives and connections are laid bare. In that space, the truths we might not have been willing to face in the busyness of presence begin to surface. These truths can be uncomfortable, illuminating patterns of neglect, avoidance, or disconnection. Yet they also hold the potential for healing, offering clarity and perspective that can lead to growth and transformation. When someone is absent, their role in our lives becomes starkly evident. Think of a close friend who moves away or a loved one who passes on. Their absence forces us to confront how much they meant to us, how intertwined their presence was with our daily routines or emotional stability. In their absence, we recognize the depth of the connection, or in some cases, the gaps we didn't realize were there. The mirror of absence reflects not only what we had, but also what we might have taken for granted. It's an invitation to appreciate the relationships and moments we often overlook. At the same time, absence can reveal where relationships are fragile. When someone steps back or doesn't show up, their absence highlights the dynamics of the connection. A friend who consistently cancels plans or a partner who emotionally withdraws leaves a void that tells its own story. In these moments, absence becomes a mirror showing us where trust might be lacking, where effort is unbalanced, or where priorities are misaligned. It can be painful to confront these truths, but the clarity absence provides is necessary for understanding what needs to change or be nurtured. This mirror doesn't just reflect others, it reflects ourselves too. When we are absent from someone's life, whether intentionally or not, it says something about our choices, limitations, and values. Perhaps we've pulled away because we're overwhelmed, or maybe we're avoiding difficult conversations. Our absence might reveal where we are protecting ourselves, but it can also show us where we failed to prioritize what truly matters. Recognizing this is not about self blame, but about self awareness. Absence offers us a chance to understand our patterns and ask ourselves if they align with the person we want to be. Absence also holds a unique power to heal when approached with intention. There are moments in life when stepping back is necessary, not out of neglect, but out of a need for clarity or self preservation. In these instances, absence becomes a gift. It provides the distance needed to process emotions, gain perspective, and regroup. This intentional pause allows us to approach situations or relationships with renewed energy and a clearer mind. It's not about abandonment, it's about creating space to breathe and recalibrate. For example, in the aftermath of a conflict, stepping away can prevent escalation. Absence allows emotions to settle, creating room for understanding and reconciliation. It's in the quiet of being apart that we can reflect on our role in the situation, see the other person's perspective, and prepare to re engage with empathy and compassion. In this way, absence becomes a bridge to healing, offering a pathway to reconnect in a healthier and more meaningful way. Absence can also be a form of self care. In a world that often demands constant availability, taking a step back can feel counterintuitive, even guilt inducing. But absence allows us to prioritize our own well being, to rest, and to reconnect with ourselves. When we are constantly present for others, we risk losing touch with our own needs and desires. By creating intentional gaps in our presence, we give ourselves the chance to heal from burnout, stress, or emotional exhaustion. This act of self preservation doesn't just benefit us, it enables us to show up more fully and authentically when we do return. However, the healing power of absence depends on how it is framed and communicated. Unexplained or unexpected absence often feels like rejection, leaving wounds rather than room for growth. When we step away without clarity or intention, others are left to fill the silence with their own interpretations, which can lead to misunderstandings and hurt. To harness the healing potential of absence, it's important to approach it with care, ensuring that our withdrawal is understood as a temporary and intentional choice rather than a permanent or neglectful one. The mirror of absence is not always easy to look into. It reflects the things we might prefer to ignore: neglected relationships, unspoken pain, or parts of ourselves that need attention. But it also reflects the possibilities for growth and connection. It shows us where we've been and where we have the opportunity to go. In the quiet spaces absence creates, we find clarity, clarity, clarity that can guide us toward healing, deeper relationships, and a more intentional life. In both its pain and its promise, absence teaches us to value presence more deeply. By embracing the lessons absence offers, we can move forward with greater awareness, compassion, and purpose. It reminds us that every space left empty is an opportunity not just to see the truth, but to reshape it into something better. Intentional absence is a profound act of agency. In a world that constantly demands attention, availability, and engagement, choosing to step away can be both empowering and transformative. It is not an act of neglect or avoidance, but a deliberate decision to prioritize what matters most. Intentional absence reflects a deep understanding of oneself, an acknowledgement of limits, and the courage to create boundaries that protect mental, emotional, and physical well-being. It is a way of reclaiming control over one's time and energy, ensuring that presence is meaningful rather than performative. At its core, intentional absence is about prioritization. Life is full of competing demands, from personal relationships to professional obligations. It's easy to fall into the trap of trying to be everywhere and do everything, but this often leads to burnout, resentment, or superficial engagement. By stepping back with intention, we make a powerful statement about where our focus truly belongs. For example, declining an invitation to yet another meeting or social event might feel uncomfortable in the moment, but it creates space to invest in something more meaningful, whether it's spending time with loved ones, pursuing a personal passion, or simply resting. This kind of absence requires courage. Society often equates busyness with success and visibility with value. To intentionally step away can feel like going against the grain, risking judgment or misunderstanding. But there is strength in saying no, in resisting the pull to be constantly present. It's a declaration that we are more than our output or our availability. It's an acknowledgement that our worth is not determined by how much we do, but by how intentionally we choose to do it. Intentional absence also serves as a powerful boundary setting tool. In relationships, it can be a way of protecting oneself from toxicity, overdependence, or emotional drain. By stepping back, we signal to others that our time and energy are not infinite and that they must be treated with respect. This can feel uncomfortable, especially when the other person doesn't understand or resists the change, but it is often necessary for the health of both parties. A parent who sets limits on their availability to prioritize self-care, for instance, teaches their children the importance of balance and boundaries. A friend who takes a step back from a one-sided relationship creates space for mutual respect to grow, or for both parties to grow, or for both parties to move on. In professional contexts, intentional absence can challenge unhealthy norms and expectations. Taking a mental health day, choosing to unplug from work emails after hours, or even walking away from a toxic workplace are acts of resistance against the culture of overwork. These decisions may feel risky, but they send a clear message that well-being matters more than productivity and that no job or task is worth sacrificing health or happiness. By modeling intentional absence, we inspire others to do the same, creating a ripple effect that can shift cultures and challenge harmful systems. Intentional absence is not about abandoning responsibilities or people. It's about recognizing when presence is no longer productive or authentic. When we show up out of obligation rather than genuine care, our presence becomes hollow. By stepping away, we allow ourselves the time and space to return with renewed energy and purpose. This absence can lead to deeper, more meaningful engagement when we do come back, because it comes from a place of choice rather than necessity. There's also a restorative power in intentional absence. The constant noise and demands of modern life can leave us disconnected from ourselves. Stepping away, whether through solitude, a digital detox, or simply saying no to commitments, allows us to tune back into our own needs and desires. In the quiet of absence, we can hear our inner voice more clearly, reflect on what truly matters, and regain the energy needed to engage with the world authentically. Sometimes intentional absence is not just about protecting ourselves, but also about creating space for others to grow. In relationships, for example, stepping back can empower others to take responsibility for their own lives. A parent who allows their child to navigate challenges on their own rather than stepping in to fix everything fosters resilience and independence. A leader who trusts their team to make decisions without constant oversight builds confidence and autonomy. In these cases, absence is not a withdrawal of care, but a gift of trust and respect. Intentional absence can also be a form of resistance. Injustice and inequity often thrive on compliance and complicity. Choosing to step back, whether it's from a conversation, a relationship, or a system that perpetuates harm, is a way of saying, I will not participate in this. This kind of absence is a powerful statement, a refusal to be part of something that goes against one's values. It creates space for change, both within ourselves and in the systems we disengage from. Ultimately, intentional absence is about reclaiming choice. It's about deciding where we invest our presence and ensuring that when we do show up, it is with purpose and authenticity. It's not an act of abandonment, but of empowerment, a way to honor our needs, protect our boundaries, and prioritize what truly matters. In a world that constantly demands more, intentional absence reminds us that sometimes the most powerful thing we can do is step away. Unintentional absence, though often unacknowledged in the moment, carries a significant weight in our relationships and responsibilities. It occurs when we fail to be present without intending to, leaving others feeling neglected, unseen, or unvalued. Unlike intentional absence, which is a deliberate choice, unintentional absence is often the result of distraction, overwhelm, or misplaced priorities. Yet its impact can be just as profound, and addressing it requires deliberate action and accountability to mend the gaps it creates. The first step in addressing unintentional absence is recognizing its existence. Life moves quickly, and it's easy to get caught up in routines, obligations, and personal challenges without realizing how our absence affects others. A friend waiting for a call that never comes, a child longing for attention while a parent is preoccupied, or a colleague left unsupported in a critical moment, these are all situations where unintentional absence can create hurt. Often, we are unaware of the void our absence leaves until someone points it out, or until the effects manifest in strained relationships, missed opportunities, or feelings of guilt. Unintentional absence often stems from being overstretched or overwhelmed. In today's fast-paced world, where work, family, and social obligations compete for our attention, it's not uncommon to spread ourselves too thin. We might tell ourselves that we'll make time later or that the other person understands our busyness. However, these assumptions can lead to unintended consequences. The person left waiting may interpret the absence as indifference or lack of care, even if that was never our intent. Recognizing this disconnect between intention and impact is crucial for taking corrective action. Another common cause of unintentional absence is misaligned priorities. It's not that we deliberately neglect certain relationships or commitments, but rather that we don't always allocate our time in ways that reflect what truly matters. For example, someone might spend hours responding to work emails while neglecting to check in with a loved one who is going through a difficult time. The absence wasn't malicious, it was a result of misplaced focus. Yet, to the person left unsupported, the absence feels just as painful as if it were intentional. Unintentional absence requires action because its effects don't simply fade over time. Addressing it starts with acknowledgement. When we realize that our absences cause hurt or disappointment, the most important thing we can do is own up to it. This means setting aside defensiveness or excuses and instead focusing on the impact of our actions or lack thereof. A heartfelt acknowledgement, even something as simple as saying, I realize I haven't been there for you and I'm sorry, can begin to repair the damage. Beyond acknowledgement, meaningful action involves making amends. This doesn't mean overcompensating or trying to fix everything all at once, but it does require effort to rebuild trust and show that the absence was not a reflection of how much we value the other person. This might mean initiating conversations, spending quality time together, or following through on commitments that were previously overlooked. Consistent actions rather than one-time gestures are key to demonstrating that the absence was an anomaly rather than a pattern. Self-reflection is also an important part of addressing unintentional absence. Understanding why we were absent in the first place helps prevent it from happening again. Were we distracted by other responsibilities? Avoiding difficult emotions or conversations, struggling with time management. Identifying these underlying causes allows us to make changes that support more intentional presence in the future. This might involve setting clearer boundaries, managing our time more effectively, or being more mindful of the needs and expectations of those around us. At times, addressing unintentional absence requires repairing our relationship with ourselves. If we are constantly overcommitting or neglecting our own needs, we're more likely to be absent in ways we don't intend. Taking time to care for our mental, emotional, and physical health ensures that we have the capacity to show up fully for others. It's not selfish, it's a necessary foundation for meaningful presence. In some cases, the effects of unintentional absence can linger, especially if it has happened repeatedly or during critical moments. Rebuilding trust takes time and patience. It requires a willingness to listen to how our absence has affected others and to accept their feelings, even if they are difficult to hear. This openness is a crucial part of repairing relationships, as it shows that we are committed to understanding the impact of our actions and making changes. Ultimately, unintentional absence is a wake up call. It reminds us to evaluate where we are investing our time and energy and to ensure that our actions align with our values. By taking responsibility and addressing the gaps we've left, we not only repair relationships, but also deepen them. The process may be uncomfortable, requiring humility, vulnerability, and sustained effort, but it is through this discomfort that we grow and strengthen the connections that matter most. Truth revealed through absence is a force of transformation that touches every corner of human connection and self awareness. Absence creates a vacuum where words, actions, and emotions are stripped down to their essence, leaving room for deeper truths to emerge. It is in the space left by what is missing, whether a person, a response, or a moment, that we find clarity about what truly matters, who we are, and how our relationships are shaped. While absence can be painful and even destabilizing, it also offers profound opportunities for growth, healing, and the redefinition of priorities. When someone's absence disrupts our lives, it often brings hidden truths into focus. A friend who stops reaching out, a partner who emotionally withdraws, or a mentor who steps back. These moments of absence force us to examine the dynamics of those relationships. Did we take their presence for granted? Did the connection lack depth or balance? Their absence compels us to look inward, asking questions about the quality of our engagement, the value we place on the relationship, and whether it aligns with our expectations and needs. This reflection is transformative because it brings awareness to what we often overlook in the comfort of presence. We may not notice the role someone plays in our lives until their absence highlights it. A dependable colleague's sudden departure, for example, might reveal how much we relied on their support. Similarly, the end of a relationship can expose patterns of dependency or neglect that went unaddressed. Absence becomes a mirror, reflecting both the strengths and weaknesses of the connection. It strips away pretense and allows us to see the relationship for what it truly is. Absence also uncovers truths about ourselves. In the silence and stillness left by what is missing, we are often confronted with our own emotions, fears, and vulnerabilities. It is in these moments that we discover what we value most, what we fear losing, and where we need to grow. For instance, when someone we love steps back, the pain of their absence might reveal our struggles with abandonment or insecurity. Conversely, we might recognize a surprising resilience, an ability to adapt and thrive even in the face of loss. These truths are not always easy to face, but they hold the key to personal transformation. The transformative power of absence lies not only in its revelations, but also in its ability to inspire action. When the truth is laid bare, we are given a choice to ignore it and remain stagnant, or to embrace it and make changes. If absence reveals neglect in a relationship, we can choose to address it, investing more time and effort to rebuild trust. If it highlights our own unmet needs, we can take steps to prioritize self-care and establish healthier boundaries. The truths we uncover in absence challenge us to act, to grow, and to realign our lives with what matters most. Absence also transforms relationships by fostering appreciation and gratitude. When someone is always present, it's easy to take them for granted, to assume their support and love are constants. However, their absence serves as a reminder of their importance, reigniting the gratitude that familiarity often dulls. This renewed appreciation can strengthen bonds, encouraging us to cherish the moments we have with those we care about and to communicate that value more openly. In some cases, the truth revealed in absence leads to endings rather than reconnections. This too is transformative. When absence highlights the absence of reciprocity or respect in a relationship, it might signal the need to let go. Ending a connection is never easy, but the clarity gained through absence can make the decision less fraught with doubt. It allows us to move forward with a sense of resolution, knowing that the choice aligns with the truths we've uncovered. Beyond personal relationships, the truth revealed in absence can also impact broader aspects of our lives, such as career, purpose, and values. A sabbatical from work might illuminate how unfulfilled we were in our role, pushing us to seek a path that aligns more closely with our passions. Distance from a chaotic environment might reveal how much peace and balance we truly need. These realizations, born from absence, guide us toward more intentional and authentic living. Absence, while often associated with loss, is a profound teacher. It creates the space for truth to emerge, for blind spots to become visible, and for transformation to take root. By sitting with the discomfort of what is missing, we gain the clarity to see what truly matters about ourselves, our relationships, and the lives we want to lead. The truth in absence is not static, it is a catalyst urging us to grow, to heal, and to build stronger, more meaningful connections. While it may feel like a void, absence is, in fact, a fertile ground where new understanding and possibilities take shape.